Welcome back to, this is the third lesson in the Growology School's How to Grow Your Own Marijuana online course. We're talking right now about all the things that you're gonna need before you start your seeds. We call this before the grow. This is the type of things that we're gonna discuss, whether it's best for you to grow indoors or outdoors, in movable pots or in stationary beds, in a grow box like we have over here, or in an entire room, closet, warehouse, what have you. Now, of these things that we have, we're going to go over all of them in more detail, but we have the traditional, question of indoor versus outdoor. Do you have only an indoor space? Are you looking to conceal this from prying eyes? Are you looking to control the quality by really being able to dial in the lighting, the water, and the environment, the temperature and the humidity? These are all factors that outdoors are much, much, much harder to control. In addition to that, we have pots versus beds. Do you want to be able to move your plants around? If so, pots will be crucial. In fact, I recommend that everybody start in pots, and if you feel like putting your plants into the ground at some point, by all means go ahead. They'll have much more room to grow and thrive, but once they're there, they're stuck and you're not moving them. And lastly, closet versus grow box. One is something that you can buy online. A grow box, you set it up in a matter of minutes, and you're ready to grow your own marijuana. They're easy, they're portable, they're a bit pricey, but they can be done, even a build your own sort of style with the right materials that we'll get into in just a little bit. Otherwise, we can grow in a closet or a room or something a bit more permanent. If you're planning on having multiple seasons to grow your marijuana, this is something that I would recommend, because you're gonna keep coming back to it. You're gonna save in the long haul of having more space, more customization capabilities, and really just the ability to truly dial in your space to get the best possible crop that you can. I recommend having a calendar, because when you're growing multiple different crops all at the same time, you're gonna need to stay on track of what was done when and where. That way you can consistently keep feeding on the same schedules without getting them mixed up. If you started something 2 weeks before, that way you have overlapping harvest later on in the season, you're going to want to know which one was fed on Tuesday and which one was fed on Thursday, and really be able to make sure that you're adhering to the strict schedules that you give. When it comes to choosing where is best to grow for you, you're going to want to make sure that in addition to all these factors that we just discussed, you also realize that you need to choose what is the best, most conducive to your situation, the most convenient and the most economical. Because you don't want to get ahead of yourselves and prepare this huge grow operation if you don't anticipate being able to keep up with the demand that something like that, something of size, is going to have on your time. In addition to that, let's get into some of the things that we'll have that you'll find essential to growing. First, I want to start with a couple. We have a spade here. This is a hand trowel. This is for digging holes and transplanting. It contrasts to this scoop. This scoop is more designed for moving dirt, for really being able to take dirt from a bag like we have here and get a lot of volume of your dirt here. Whereas the spade literally just cannot hold it. It all spills over. In addition to that, we have some garden shears. These smaller ones are much more adept for pruning, trimming, and carefully corralling your plant to grow the way you want and making precise cuts. Meanwhile, these shears here, much larger, if I can open them, much larger. This is what you'll use when it comes time to harvest. This will make short work of even the thickest stems and branch removal, that sort of thing. Now, back to talking about where we grow. One of the first options I listed was indoor. Indoor, we'll find is very nice, specifically for the ability to truly control all the environmental factors that are at play. And by environmental factors, I mean pests, diseases, fungus, temperature, humidity, the amount of light leak that you get at night, because night pollution can really stress out. Light pollution can really stress out your plants. So, in addition to being able to control the climate, It is said that it produces better quality buds because you're controlling this environment. Whether that's true or not remains to be unseen, but it is the standard currently that most people ask for, and it goes for a higher premium in the dispensaries. When talking about indoors, the most crucial thing to discuss is the lighting. The lighting, like we have here, these are HID lamps. This is really the top of the line that you can get here. These are high pressure sodiums, and they're made more for the flowering stage. This has a warm light that replicates the fall color temperature. This as well is a 1000 watt HID HPS, high pressure sodium light. Same thing, great for flowering. The other type of HID light, metal halide, that is more what we would use in the vegetative state. It's a bit brighter, bit stronger, and it's just more that summertime temperature, nice white blue light. In addition to that, other lighting options we have, there is your standard incandescent bulb. It's the normal household bulb that you would see at home. They're really not the best or even usable at all in terms of growing marijuana, because the output of light, the lumens that they produce, are not strong enough to truly get a good flowering plant. I have seen them used very well in combination with fluorescent bulbs and lighting technique called light depth used in greenhouses, where they use the lights in additional supplement it with the sun's light to truly, draw the most out of your day. But for what we're talking about, I don't recommend it. Keep them around in case you need some lights for the house. But as far as putting them in a grow box or in your room is concerned, leave them at home. Aside from the incandescents, I'm going to move on to fluorescence. Fluorescence, very similar to the lights we have here in the ceiling right now. CFL lighting, stands for compact fluorescent lighting, is very good economical option. We're actually using them all over this room right now. They're cheaper. They draw less current. They're really a great option, especially in smaller, tighter spaces. However, the output of light, the lumens that they're producing, is not quite as high as the HIDs that we discussed here earlier. So if you're truly looking for the best bang for your buck, I do recommend you go with an HID, because in the long run, these produce more lights, more lumen, more light, while using less watts. So your electric bill over time will actually come down a bit by using these, as opposed to using many fluorescent lights to try and achieve the same thing. With fluorescent lights, always be sure to look for high output varieties, generally marked with an HO. The last kind of lighting, LED lightings, is a bit new on the scene. It looks great, really promising. They're very economical in terms of power that they draw. They're very expensive, however, for anything high quality, and you want to make sure that you get high quality when you're talking LEDs, so to avoid any flickering, because the sun doesn't flicker. To have any sort of flicker whatsoever is unnatural, and if you have that, your plants are going to know it, and they're just not going to produce the yield that you're looking for. However, LED lights used in conjunction with a ballast system to control temperature and output is something that I think could be extremely promising in your grow, simply because you can accurately mimic the course and the changing of the seasons in the sun's natural light by being a bit warmer and dimmer in the morning and the evening, and really bright, strong blue during the daytime. And that's what a ballast system will help you with. Something similar like we have down here. This is a big magnetic one. Personally, I would opt for something a bit smaller and digital so that you can control. But this is it. This is a ballast system. This is going to allow you control the output of your lights, which in turn will save you a bit of money actually in your electric bill, because you don't want to turn your lights on to full blast immediately. That stresses your plants on. Think about it. If you just walked outside at 5 in the morning and the sun was already at 12 noon, your eyes would take a second. They wouldn't to adjust. They would not necessarily like that. Now, regardless of which lighting system or ballast system you decide to use, there's really two very important keys when it comes to lighting that you need to remember. And that's that your plants need about 5,000 to 6,000 lumens, because one plant takes up about a square foot, and you need 5,000 to 6,000 lumens per square foot. It's absolutely crucial that your plants receive an adequate amount of light if they're to prosper. Additionally, when the lights are off, you need to avoid starry nights. A grow box is very nice because you just close it all up. You make sure there's no light leaking in from the outside. It's going to stress your plants out or try and trick them in to starting the grow process over because they think a new day has begun. If you don't get rid of your starry nights and your light leaks, your crop has a tendency to herm out, they call it, which is turn into hermaphrodites, meaning you'll get buds, but those buds will have seeds. Now that we've talked about lighting, I think it's very important that we discuss the growing medium that you're going to use. There's many different options, ranging from, your nice loamy garden soil. We have here some coconut coir, which is the dried shredded coconut husk from the coconut industry. It's a natural byproduct. This is what I use at home. In fact, this came from my home, and it's just really great. You add a little bit of water. You either use it by itself or mix it in with regular soil. I use lava rock, similar to these clay pallets we have down below here. In fact, if you give me just a second, I will bring them up. These are air expanded clay pallets. They make your soil lighter. They help to retain a bit more water because clay retains water better than, say, sand or your regular garden soil, the dirt outside your house. These things, very nice. And I believe that they help the roots give something to bond to. In fact, when it comes to hydroponic aquaculturing, your roots need something. They can't just dangle in the solution, although they are coming up with ways to do that too. They do exist, but this is how it would happen naturally. In addition to those that we've just discussed, here we have some rock wool cubes. This is basaltic rock that's heated up, then basically melted down, spun into fibers, looks like insulation. It's a pretty big irritant for the skin and eyes. So when you're handling this stuff in mass quantity, long sleeves, possibly a face mask, some glasses, because the fibers, they will go everywhere if they get airborne. But this is really great. I would use something like this for cloning plants because you just stick them right here in the hole, make sure that it's covered just enough, and it'll just grow right here. You drop it in the ground when you're ready. One thing to note though is that rock wall is naturally higher on the alkaline scale, somewhere around like an 8 maybe. So you're going to need to treat these first. You're going to need to pH balance these in order to bring it down to a more acidic level, because your plants like an acidic soil somewhere in that 6 to 6.5 medium range. So you have to treat these. You basically soak them in a pH balanced water, a slightly acidic water. Let them soak it up for an hour, no more than 24 hours. Let it, rinse out a little bit, dry it out, flush it again with some more water to really get all the gunk out of there before you put your plants inside. One thing that we don't have here that I use often is perlite. It's a vermiculite. It's basically similar to the expanded clay pebbles. It's just a mineral that's been puffed up, helps with drainage as well as water retention. Even though those are two counterintuitive ideas, they work the same. They work well together, and they will help when mixed in with just this regular soil. In fact, this is what perlite would be. It's already in there, but you can buy it just like that. Mix it into whatever soil you're using. So when it comes to our grow medium, we just need to remember, really, you want to pH balance it. If you take one thing away from your this discussion of what soil you're going to use, because soil can refer to many different things. It's not just gardening soil. Soil is just it's a nicer word for dirt, but it's essentially what it is. Soil is the makeup of organic material that we use, that our plants come from, that this earth is built upon. So pH balance it, because if your pH is too low, soil is too acidic, destroy the roots. If it's too high, it's not going to thrive. There'll be nutrient lockout. Your plants won't be able to take in the nutrients that they need to grow properly. Now I want to skip ahead a little bit and talk about hydroponically growing your marijuana. There's a couple different ways to do that. There's a couple different theories. One such as the ebb and flow technique that we have listed here. It's basically flooding your reservoir that the roots dangle upon into with a feeding solution, water, nutrients, that sort of thing. And then after allowing the plants to feed, you drain it out back into a holding tank, which allows the roots to oxygenate. Because if they just sit in the water, eventually with no oxygenation and it's just stagnant water, they will rot out and your plants will die. Another way that does take advantage of having your roots sit in the water all the time is this DWC, stands for deep water cultivation. And that's where your roots hang in buckets of water, but this water is oxygenated with an air pump similar to an aquarium system. And it just allows for constant feeding and constant oxygenation. These types of plants, the deep water cultivation plants, grow very big, very fast, and are capable of producing substantial yields in small spaces. In addition to that, we have a couple others. We have an aeroponic system, which is the roots are fed via mist. So once again, constant feeding along with aeration. We have the NFT, which is a nutrient film technique, which basically floods the area with nutrients, and it creates this mat, similar to gardening microgreens. The bubbleponics form a DWC here. There's really a bunch of different kinds. I'm not going to touch on all of them, but there's benefits and drawbacks to every single one. Knowing that with hydroponics, you're still going to need to control your environment, like we were talking earlier in response to indoor growing. Controlling the environment, meaning your temperature, your humidity, you really want to dial those in. Plants don't like anything below 55 degrees, that's too cold. Really, even 60 starting to get down there pushing it. And they don't like anything over 80 as well. Too hot, and they're not going to grow this. They're not going to grow right. In fact, if you're growing inside or outdoors, one of the things that you're going to need to do and take into account is your ventilation. So here we have an exhaust fan, like we were discussing earlier inside the grow box. You're going to hook this up along with a carbon filter here to remove some of the heat from your area that you're growing in. This actually helps too a lot, because when these are connected, the air that this expels will neutralize odors. So you can blow, even if it reeks of marijuana inside your grow box, by the time the air escapes, courtesy of this exhaust fan, it's going to smell normal, like clean air. It really helps, with the whole concealment thing, as well as just making sure that, your whole block doesn't stink like pot and your neighbors come asking you, hey, what's going on? So exhaust fan, filter, crucial, along with you're going to want some oscillating fans, box fans. We had one there in the grow box, and that just gives a bit of airflow, keeps it circulating, doesn't stagnate. You're going to need that because you want to create a negative pressure inside your space. That way you don't get any leaking odors out of any cracks that you might have or that form. So in part, with the negative pressure that we create inside our grow box, it's going to make sure that the air is flowing in and nothing is escaping out besides that which is being pulled out in courtesy of the exhaust fan. This is going to make sure that we don't have any smell getting out to surrounding areas and inviting people into your growing area wondering, hey, what's going on, by following their noses.